Carl Jung said, "Awaken and shine your light for others to follow. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is an invitation to move differently in the world, to operate from a place of deep knowing and alignment. I'm Adrienne McDonald, and welcome to the Source Code Podcast. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Grab your favorite beverage and let us see what the muse has for us today. So while I was in Athens for vacation, I had an opportunity to go to a couple of museums. I could have spent so much more time in museums in Athens. They were fantastic. One of which was the National Archaeological Museum. And I saw so many exquisite pieces. There was one piece, however, I was particularly drawn to. And it was very glowy to me. And it had people holding masks. Now, some of the people were holding masks up. Some of them, the mask was by their side. And I studied it for quite a while. I even went away from it, and then I came back to it. Now, in my Celtic shamanism practitioner training, we are doing another round of practicals, and I knew those were coming up, and somehow I felt like this piece would be inspiration for that. So when I was prepping for that, because that's coming up this coming weekend, somehow I was like, this is tied in. And when I looked at the chart, the transit chart for human design, I saw that we were going to be in gate 59. And when this episode drops, we're in gate 59. And that is the gate of intimacy. And the gene keys, the shadow is dishonesty, the gift is intimacy, and the city is transparency. Now I have this gate defined in my chart. In fact, I have the channel of intimacy. And 59 is culture in my pearl sequence. So I've really contemplated this one quite a bit. And if you're a student of human design, you know this gate has a lot to do with sexuality and reproduction. But fundamentally, it's about core creation energy. And I got to thinking about that piece with masks and the masks that we wear as humans. And today I want to talk about this, though, through the lens of intimacy, that intimate relationship you have with yourself. And when we interact with others, it is common for us to wear masks, presenting a version of ourselves that we think will be accepted or admired. And those masks can create a barrier because they prevent genuine connection a lot of the times from forming. But what's overlooked is when we do the same thing to ourselves. We do it with ourselves. We hide our true feelings and desires behind a facade. And it's usually a facade of expectation and obligation. So whereas wearing a mask with others distances ourselves from having authentic relationships, wearing one with ourselves creates, I feel like, an even deeper disconnection, which of course will affect all of our relationships. Now, Richard Rudd says the shadow of the 59 is rooted in our inability to come clean with one another. It's the source of hidden agendas. And that's very true with our relationship with ourselves as well. Because the real transformation happens when we stop hiding from our own reflection and choose to hold up a mirror instead of a mask. And by embracing our true selves with honesty and compassion. When we do that, we cultivate a deeper relationship with ourselves, but also pave way for a more authentic and fulfilling connections with others. When we live without the mask, both inwardly and outwardly, we allow real intimacy and understanding to permeate Now, that is very easy to say and much, much harder to do because, well, a lot of people, I think most people, fear rejection if they, in some way, at some point in their life, they fear rejection if they present their true, authentic selves to the world. And there's reasons for that. There's lots of reasons for that. But here's the real truth. You will always be rejected by some people. I think that one of the challenges we face in the world right now is this concept that everyone has to accept you. At this point in humanity's evolution, that's simply not likely. And I think that's where we see people talk about inclusivity, but in reality, a lot of it is performative inclusivity, or with the parameters of you have to think about things a certain way without questioning anything. And that's not really true inclusivity. The thoughts I have around this, though, is when you are deeply rooted within yourself, you're much less likely to fear being othered. And being othered, or feeling being othered, is like that taps into a primal part of us, a primal fear part of us. Because when you were othered, when you were part of the tribe and you were othered way, 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 way back in our history, that usually meant death. Because we needed the tribe to keep us alive. When you know who you are, though, in modern times, someone else's judgment of that really isn't your concern. So when I first started studying the Gene Keys, I was really intrigued by Richard Rudd's talk on the fractal lines. He said that when our universe was conceived at the moment of the Big Bang, the crystalline seed of our evolution shattered into countless fractal shards or fragments, and these fractal aspects of the whole radiated out in precise geometric patterns known as fractal lines. And all fractal lines can be traced back to one of three primary fractal lines, thus seeding the trinity within all aspects of the holographic universe. As you move into deeper harmony with your true nature, you come into alignment with all the beings within the seed, your seed fractal line, which catalysts great synchronicity and grace in your life. Now, I've been a chameleon most of my life. I've shifted to whatever environment I was in, and that is a great survival technique. It's not so great if you're trying to be your true self, because for a lot of my life, I really didn't have a really great, deep understanding of who I was, because I was spending most of my energy and time shifting to try to be accepted, to try to be liked, to try to be loved, to try to have some sort of person understand me. And therapy was great to give me coping skills so that I could keep shifting. And also for the most part, therapy is an intellectual exercise. Embracing your true self, that's in the body, that's in your energy field. You got to bring those into play. Otherwise, you're always going to be holding up those masks. Now, I realize that there are other forms of therapy. There's somatic therapy, but for the most part, when people talk about therapy, they're talking about the intellectual exercise. So human design and Gene Keys, they offer a framework for understanding and embracing your authentic self. It helps you strip away these masks that you've worn, both with others and with yourself, because it's revealing your own unique energetic source code. It gives you a guide, a map, somewhere to look and something to start working with to align to your true nature. And that makes it easier to recognize when you may be hiding or when you may be compromising yourself to fit in. And it encourages you to live in accordance with your natural strengths and vulnerabilities, and that's just going to foster more self-acceptance and a lot more clarity. Now, when you work in concert, human design and Gene Keys in particular, I think offers a profound insight into unmasking, because it illuminates the deeper aspects of your personality and your path. And I'm going to break down how I think Gene Keys does this in a more in-depth way, working in concert with human design. So yes, it promotes, number one, self-awareness, because it's a very detailed map of your gifts and your challenges and your potential shadows. And when you go through the sequences, you gain a deeper understanding of what your core motivations are and your patterns are, because it helps you see where you may be hiding behind those masks or facades. And of course, number two, that leads to transformation. So each key has a spectrum of consciousness, from shadow excuse me, to city. And this framework helps you recognize, okay, when I'm looking at this belief, am I operating the shadow, or am I operating the gift, or am I operating in the city, which happens on occasion, because it's going to allow you to, it helps you move through superficial layers. And third, and I think one of the most important, is the integration, because when you walk the different sequences, you're doing them at a pace to help you integrate those gifts into daily life, because you're working from the insights. And when you do that, and you can press the pause button more often, that's what helps with the integration. And for acceptance, right? When you see, okay, these are my innate gifts. I can see where I've been operating the shadow. There's less, that's one less question that you have to ask yourself, because it's there and it's identified those key things. And so that helps with, all of that helps with connection, and connections with yourself, connection with others. And as you integrate this understanding, you naturally begin to relate to yourself and others a lot more genuinely, a lot more deeply, and a lot more authentic connections instead of those, more transient ones. They help you, human design and Gene Keys really help you look in that mirror instead of holding up that mask. That can be very uncomfortable at times, but it also can be very empowering. Now, I will say one thing to note here. I can give you your human design chart. I can give you your Gene Keys profile, and you can read the report, and you can nod and yep. But that's all still in your head. I've said this before. I'll say it again. It's a map and an experiment. You may have a challenge. Something may come up, and you can look at the map and go, you know what? I need to go work on that. And then perhaps some of that work is using other modalities to support you in your transformation. You got to get your body involved. You got to get your energy involved. That could be, doing some Reiki work with someone. It could be, I know some people use tapping. There's like a plethora of modalities out there that can help support you getting back into your body. Yes, your mind is involved. You can't, I think that's the other thing in human design, because we've talked so much about, your decision making, and you have to get back in your body, and that is true. But making the mind the enemy and discounting it, I think, is not productive either. So, yeah, it's a holistic thing here, folks. You're going to, as you go through this process, as you use these tools, I think what really happens is everything gets more in sync with itself. It's a more holistic approach. So I'm going to end this episode with reflective questions. Okay, those reflective questions for each type could make you, yes, you're going to use your mind to think about it, but then you're also going to be feeling into it and following the threads of what is your body telling you, like what is the next step, what do you need to be looking at, and being led by that. So here are a few reflective questions tailored for, each type on the topic of unmasking and embracing authenticity, like little breadcrumbs for you to go deeper. So for manifestors, am I holding back from initiating or expressing my true desire or goal, or going after my goal, because of fear about how others may perceive me? Generators, do I feel fulfilled in the actions that I'm taking right now? Or am I saying yes to things that don't truly resonate with me? Manifesting generators, am I rushing through life and multitasking? Am I doing the busyness thing to avoid facing parts of myself that need some deeper attention, that need some deeper reflection? Projector, am I waiting for the right invitations that align with me? Or am I masking my authenticity to fit into roles that drain my energy? Reflector, am I honoring my need for time and reflection? Or am I adapting too much to the expectation of others? i.e., I'm moving too fast and losing sight of my true self. Now, as always, thanks for listening. I think next week I'm talking about willpower and motivation. Fun fact, not everyone is motivated by desire, despite personal development industry's popular opinion. So if you have found this helpful, please share this episode out, or if you feel so inclined, leave a review. That helps us get this message out to more people. And remember to find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. Thank you for listening to the Source Code Podcast. If you found this episode insightful and feel moved to, please leave a review and share it out with those you believe will find it helpful. You can check out my website for more information at www.adrianmcdonald.com. And for more of my more regular musings, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. I hope you have a beautiful week.